This is being recorded. This is bullshit. I'm out of here.
That's awesome. Well, we start or we don't start. Well, we don't know. We may have it, but welcome to the sweet spot, my friends. It's awesome to see you again. And there we have it again. So we have a great topic. But before we start, welcome, guys. How you doing?
I'm good. I don't know how good you are.
I'm good. I didn't mean to peace out there in the middle of the turn on and the intro. That wasn't actually the goal, but apparently it's what happened.
Well, it's been awesome. So I think that there's a topic for the ages with the topic for today. Don't you think, Howard?
I do. And I like that Paul has no idea what the topic is.
No.
We've never done that before. I like that you and I know very well what the topic is. We've already begun the discussion, and now Paul actually gets to hear both sides and then jump in and with his kind of 2 cents.
I look forward to it.
Well, my friends, we are in an age that video conferencing, it's the norm. But like a lot of people, some people just turn off their video.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is, how productive is a meeting when you're not even engaged in there with the camera on? And we started that discussion in one of the social media platforms that we all engage. And some people share some of their feedback and here and there. And like always, someone needs to take the opposite way of sharing something. So I decided to take the opposite to Howard.
Oh, wait. Let's first cover specifically what I said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So specifically what I said was my thought of the day on video camera etiquette is 4 or fewer people in a meeting, everyone's video's on.
Okay.
That's more personal. More than 4, your video's only on if you're speaking or waiting to speak.
Okay.
That was specifically what I said. I'm more than happy to say 4 is not the right number, fine. But I do very much believe that too much motion, like we don't see that as people, it's screens on a screen, right? It's windows on a screen. And the thing that I like the least in video is this. I can't move because I'm on video and someone might notice that I'm not paying attention. So instead, I'm still not paying attention, but I'm also not moving. Or, right, I'm obviously not engaged and not paying attention to the fact that I'm on video, right? Not to mention the kind of lady who got up on video and went off and wandered to the bathroom with her laptop, right? Or other kind of somewhat famous, internet memes about similar things. I do think that there has to be something. It can't be, from my perspective, it can't be we're all on video all the time. The fact is we're not in a conference room, right? Our minds don't see it that way, no matter how much we want to fake it, no matter how much we want to pretend. And that's my contention. So Carlos had a different perspective, and that's kind of where the conversation started. So what was your perspective, Carlos?
So if you're going to be in the meeting, you should be engaged. And if you don't have to be there, get out. Like having a meeting with, like, I understand your point, Howard, that sometimes you have 50 people in a meeting and everybody with the video on, and most companies don't buy powerful enough laptops to have 40 people on a gallery view. So you're only getting about 25. So if you're not gonna be actively engaged in the meeting, that means that you should not, there's no need for you in there. Unless there is a status call, there's a, hey, Department X, yeah, we're good to go, let's move forward or something like that. And my point was, if you're gonna be on the meeting, you need to be engaged. You need to be like if you were on a conference room. Like, that's my point. If I don't need you in the meeting, then don't be there. Go and do something more productive. Go and teach something, go learn something, go coach someone in your team. Because I find that disrespectful towards whoever is leading the meeting, that all of a sudden everyone is like this. You don't have no engagement. You don't get, like, I understand what Howard mentioned, that the cues are different, but at least if I'm on a meeting, like, that's why I can see both of you guys.
Right.
You're in Canada, Howard is somewhere in the US. What the heck is that?
You're right.
Yeah.
There's three of us. There's three of us, right? At some
Yeah.
point, there's just too many people for you to see them anyways, right? And let's be honest, if you're presenting something, right, we don't actually have a 10-person conversation. It's not possible to have a 10-person conversation over video,
Right.
because you don't get the overlay. In person, we can actually kind of all talk at about the same time, and the human mind is very, very, very good about associating directionality with that and going, oh, well, that's this person speaking, that's this person speaking. Like, there's a tremendous difference in human psychology between in person and over video. Over video, everyone talks over everyone else, and it becomes one conversation, and the human mind isn't really very good at picking it out, and it just becomes noise. So we don't have 10-person conversations over video. It doesn't actually work that way. Like right now, you're waiting for me to stop or find a pause so that you can speak.
Well, no, because you're not going to respond to my chat.
But isn't there a pretty significant difference between a presentation and a meeting? So regardless of size of a presentation, it is much more difficult to present to avatars.
Yes.
Even if there's 10, 12, 20 people, it's much easier to present to what you believe is cognizant real people, right?
I mean, I guess it depends on what you're doing, right? From my perspective, it doesn't, no, not really.
Well, what if I'm trying to inspire or motivate, right? What if I'm trying to convince them of a change? What if I'm trying to sort of introduce a technology concept that might be foreign to them? And you really need to look to see if there's actual engagement, right? That they're paying attention, that there's some nods every so often, that, you know, they're leaning in if they need to lean in. And I know it's much more difficult to see lean in that respect, but, you know, presenting that kind of content to a bunch of avatars, I'm not sure is as effective. Meetings, however, agreed. There is a certain number of people where it becomes ineffective, and that meeting becomes a presentation because either no one can participate or everyone tries to participate, and therefore no value gets created.
But I think the same is true in what you're in a presentation, right? I mean, I think it behooves us that unless I'm just delivering a commercial, right, what I need to do is stop for questions a whole lot more often, stop for comments a whole lot more often, right? I think it's a pacing issue, not a no video issue, right? And I think if you start by saying this has to be interactive and this is how we interact, then it becomes a whole lot easier, rather than someone hits the raise hand button, you're not paying attention. Right. You know what I mean? I can't see if someone's waiting to ask a question in 25 video streams if I'm paying attention to a slideshow.
Right.
And remember, 99% of people are not professional presenters like we are, right? They're not going to catch the subtle cues that we know to look for. They're going to pay attention to their slides. Most people read off of them, right? So that's going to be where the presenter's focus is. So how do I ensure that the presenter catches the cues? Because that's more important, the presenter catches the cues. And the number of times I see somebody talk for 10 minutes when there's the hand raised button has been pressed, or someone puts a question in chat, way outweighs, right? And now you're just bulldozing.
Right.
Right. Again, we're not the audience, right? Our tricks are not valid for the rest of the world. They're not to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I like to see everyone on video when I'm presenting for exactly the reason that you stated. But when I'm an audience member and the presenter is not aiming for engagement, doesn't understand how to do it, what you get is a lot of this.
Yeah, true.
Right. I could easily replace them with a paper printed cutout, right? We could order big heads for everybody, stick them to the wall behind them, and that would accomplish the same thing that I'm getting from them in their chair, right? But if instead you have this, and then when you have a question or are waiting to speak, all of a sudden you get this. Hey, oh, look, I can easily see as the presenter, there is some new visual aspect. That person's now waiting to ask a question. Let me pause for a question. Howard has a question.
Let's take the other side of that coin. As a attendee, how can you ensure you stay attentive, right? How can you avoid multitasking? How can you be present in order to receive that content in this virtual setting when I might not even be physically on? In many ways, being physically on camera forces me to be present, or at least pretending to be present.
That's my
piece. No, but I think it helps there too, because if everyone's video's off except the speaker, and I change to speaker view, then my attention is my whole screen is focused on that with dots for everybody else, and I'm not focused on people who aren't actively participating. I'm just focused on the people who are actively participating, and speaker view will change when the next person asks a question. And then the only person that needs to use gallery for any reason is in fact the speaker, who's just looking for someone else's video to come up.
But don't you think the net inattention quotient increases? So then your 20 minutes that you're delivering, that you're hoping 20 people are hearing, understanding, and nodding on, 5 might. And now you have to repeat this message several times because of the high inattention factor.
I think you assume that they're inattentive because their camera's off.
I am assuming that's true.
Yeah. No, I don't. From what I can see, from what I can witness, they're not attentive anyhow. Right. They've already drifted. Right. I see a tremendous number of people who aren't paying attention to the video that are on video. I would actually rather not see them not be attentive than have them not be attentive on video.
So it's distracting to you that they're inattentive, and they're going to be inattentive
to everyone, right? But it's again, it's standard kind of human psychology, right? This is the tribe for today, the people that are on this screen.
Right.
If 4 of the 5 people I see are doing this, then it's okay for me to do this too.
Right.
If I can't see them, I can pretend they're engaged. Like my mind is not naturally going to go, they're not engaged. They're going to be doing what I'm doing.
Right.
And isn't the onus really on the presenter to make sure they're engaged, to keep people engaged? If the presenter is so boring that they're doing this, if the content is so boring, well then this could have been an email.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Kind of to Carlos's point, if you're not engaged, do you need to be in the meeting?
Right.
Correct. That's my point. And like looking at, I know that there be meetings that I'm in that without the camera, at least for me, I'm in the meeting, but the meeting is completely on the background. It's just noise. Like when you put music and you are working, you're listening to something and I'm doing something else. Like I have 3 monitors right here and I have one literally on top of the camera just for the meeting, specifically for that reason. So I can just drop it there when I need to be engaged, because then I can be looking directly at the meeting and I'm constantly there, even though there's stuff in here. It's not that I don't want to be on the meeting, but sometimes they invite you to a meeting and say, oh, we need you there. And then all of a sudden, everybody's talking about something that you don't have to be there. I'm like, okay, do I have to be on this meeting? Well, just for your awareness. I'm like, send me the notes. And
what's your thoughts on purposeful distraction? So I'll give you an example. This happens to me quite often, especially being relatively new here, right? So what happens often is I'm in a group meeting of some sort. Maybe it's a forecasting meeting or a specific client meeting. And they'll mention a client, or they'll mention a product, they'll mention a technology to which I'm not up to speed on. So in real time, Alt-Tab, quick Google search of this thing, quick read up on what it is while the conversation is happening. So if I needed to participate, I could jump in after the 15 to 20 seconds of, hey, what does this company do again? Oh yeah, they are a grocery store chain.
I think it's a little bit different.
That's fine. I think we're arguing, I think we're discussing more than one thing though, right? Because now we're talking about how engaging is the meeting. Now we're talking about how purposeful is the fact that it's a meeting, right? This is probably the oldest conversation in business. Once we invented offices, right? The very next thing is everyone came home and complained I was stuck in a meeting in my office that shouldn't have been a meeting. It should have been an email, right? And that's where I want to say it's Amazon has a culture of no meetings, right? Like anyone at any time can walk out of a meeting because If I'm not supposed to be there, there's other things I can do. I can just get up and leave. And culturally, that's not a complaint on the employee who left. That's a complaint on the person who organized the meeting.
Right.
Right. And I think that's a very, very different issue, and one that absolutely has to be addressed. It's tangential to the question. Like I'm all for, if you are not engaged, should you be in the meeting? But also keep in mind, the person who organized the meeting chose the list. Not everyone chosen in the list has the ability to say, let me out of here.
Right.
Right? Depending on your organization may not allow you to do that. Your manager may not allow you to do that. Your boss may not allow you to do that, right? You may have to be there. Yeah, but there's no point for me being here, so why should I be engaged?
Yeah.
Right? I'm not
It's the boss presenting, that's why.
Finance, right? Like, this doesn't affect my life, doesn't affect my job. You're really just wasting time. In that case, maybe it's better that I'm not engaged and instead actually doing work. Right? Maybe it is in fact a larger meeting where it's people delivering status, and the thing that you care about hasn't come up yet. Right? Maybe the piece of the agenda for you hasn't come up yet. Kind of to Carlos's point. Click on, hey, yeah, we're all here. This is what's going on. Click back up. Right? I think there's a myriad of reasons why the engagement is poor, zero of which are the responsibility of the employee most of the time. Right?
If we were to extend this conversation and say, has the habits we've created in the last year on video, has that extended to in-person physical meetings? So the habits of distraction, as an example, when you now have physical meetings with people, do you now see that represented in physical form? People looking at their phones more often than they would have in the past.
Yeah,
People leaving the rooms far more often in the past.
No, I see it the opposite. I see them that they're looking forward to having that connection, because now you are physical. You have been so long, and like we're discussing, some people are in the meeting, some people are disconnected, some people are not. So when we come to a session, like we had a big meeting with about 15 of our leaders in Norwalk, Connecticut. And some of the ones that couldn't come joined through video. And it was very different dynamic because everyone was in video the whole time because we were trying to get that engagement. And the people in the meeting were looking forward to be there. And then break happened and everybody's again trying to talk and communicate and see it. It was a very different experience than the traditional meeting when you are, because that same group sometimes is on Zoom and you see like the camera off, like they talk, but it's not the same.
Howard, what do you think? Have you seen an extension of habits or different habits, or?
I think it depends on the individual, right? Like, I think you have some people who will always have a laptop open, always, right? And unless you specifically say, we want a clear table, they're going to have their laptop open.
Right.
That's how they've been. And that's not a post-COVID thing. Like we had that before.
Right.
Right. And they ain't taking notes.
No.
Right. They're answering emails, team chatting, browsing the internet, in some cases consoled in somewhere, they're doing something that's not in the meeting. And we've had that for as long as we've had laptops.
So those same people would have opened up a newspaper or put on a Walkman.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So I mean, engagement isn't a new issue. I do think it's drastically exacerbated by the distance, right? It is much, much harder to not be engaged in person, right? We're naturally built that way. But at some point, this box is no different than the TV. And if the TV doesn't hold your attention with paid actors and paid personalities, then it's unlikely that this box is going to hold your attention.
Right.
Difference in the motivation is, on one, the only thing they have is engagement because you know what I mean, it doesn't cost you anything. And on the other, well, this is your job and therefore it could cost you to not be engaged.
Right.
Right. But I think it's still the responsibility of whoever is speaking at the time to be engaging. to hold the attention of the audience. It can't just be the audience's responsibility to be engaged. And I think we, you know, if we really want to get into it, we should have taken advantage of the fact that just because you can't see everyone doesn't mean you need to see them all the time. And we do back-to-back meetings.
Right.
And how many of the back-to-back meetings actually need to be meetings? How many of the 4-hour meetings need to be 4-hour meetings?
Yep.
You can't keep people engaged for 4 hours.
To answer my own question, I've actually seen behavior changes, and maybe you haven't seen as much as I have, but I've had some recent in-person experiences where in the before times, the expectation of the room was that a 1-hour meeting, all 10 people would have been in there, would have been on time. You know, sure, they had some laptops open, but they were generally attentive and participating. Meeting ends, everybody leaves. But the new times, the after times, I've seen a lot more people coming in between 0 and 10 minutes late. They're participating if they want to. They're feeling free to stand up and go to the washroom and come back without, you know, not seeking permission, but even suggesting that they're doing that. Or just the one person on that agenda of the 5 agenda items is the only one that matters, then, and everybody else turns off their, you know, their attention span. That I've seen that change, and I think that's come from some of the video habits we've had. Now, it's not every meeting, in fairness, but I've seen a little bit of a trend to suggest that the new world is different than the old world.
Yeah, I would say that but I think the change actually is the new world has us in meetings 8 hours a day. Right. I see an endless, I'm not the only one to complain about it. I don't see it just in my organization. I see an endless number of those things on like LinkedIn, for instance. Right. I'm seeing more and more articles being written about it. And nobody's checking for availability anymore. They just throw something on your calendar.
Right.
Okay, cool. I have 3 minutes for this one because I'm triple booked. Right. Or if I'm in a meeting, I'm not actually participating. It's purely informational. I'm watching a commercial. Someone hits me up on Teams. Hey, I need 5 minutes. I got an urgent issue. Cool. I drop that. I hop over to another meeting. I come back.
Right.
And I can be real direct with this because you and I have been in the same room and have had this behavior occur. Right. I feel a little attacked. I'm not going to lie. You know, Paul, come on.
Yeah.
But the reality is, well, we're often triple booked.
Yeah.
Right. So if I've got a meeting that spans, say, 2 hours, I'm likely to have 7 meetings in that time.
Right.
Right. So sometimes you just don't have a choice. Okay, this section of the 2-hour presentation I'm okay with. I think I know what's happening based on where we're at in the slides, where we're at in the conversation. I can now step out, do that other thing, and then step back in.
Right.
Right. There's another reason why I do that. And that is the 3 of us tend to be a loud presence. So I will get up and leave the room so that I'm not holding attention and people aren't waiting for the senior executive in the room to speak.
Right. Or to agree or disagree
when their boss is in the room. Right. So, and then I come back and I kind of measure engagement, and I may speak up to try to say, no, it's okay to speak, kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Or I actually have a legitimate question, which also does in fact happen. And then I'll be like, okay, everything's good. I got other stuff to do. I'll step out. Right. And I think, I actually think that's a good thing all in all. Right. I think we need to get past any feelings of hurt that someone would get up and step out, that someone would get up and step back in. In a 30-minute meeting, it's very, very different.
Right.
You know, look, everyone in the room was chosen because you have a very specific purpose for this 30 minutes.
Right.
Right. And so I need you in the room for this 30 minutes. Okay. We can understand that. But even if we do an agenda, right? Think of a 3 or 4 hour meeting, right? I do an agenda. Okay, cool. How on topic are we? How on time are we? Right. Don't know. That agenda that you saw the first 5 minutes, that agenda we've never referred to it again. We mention it, but we don't actually, you know what I mean?
Right. That was just an order of conversation. That wasn't actually an agenda.
And unless you put the agenda together, you don't remember what order that is in. Right. And so I think I think if we're going to kind of dig deep into this, I think we need to think about how we do meetings actually a little differently. Right. I think maybe the agenda appears frequently in between every section, like the same agenda. Hey, we're here. This is highlighted. Hey, we're here. Highlighted. Right. Maybe we put a timer in there. You know what I mean? I did
feel that the meeting as I described was in fact more effective because it did allow conversations to be far more pointed to the person who is ultimately responsible for the topic. So let's say there were 20 people in the room. If only 3 people were interested in that particular topic, everybody else could leave or be disinterested for that hour while we're having that conversation. And since it was a much smaller room, it was much more candid and informal of a conversation. And then next topic, next series of people. So it was like, you know, a revolving door of content and therefore a revolving door of value. Now, the only negative impact is that there was very few people that actually heard the consistent story across all the stories. You know, good, bad, or indifferent, but we know that that's going to be a gap in that style.
For sure.
So should then the meeting not be that long? So you actually keep the engagement and connect, because the story can be repeated, but if the idea, like you just mentioned, I always think about it. I know that we have seen that you all of a sudden get 20 people in the meeting and the investment of time, effort, and everything, you don't get that return from the participation. So if you can cut the meeting shorter or actually just keep the people that really need to be there, and like you mentioned, send
Oh, we lost some people.
I think we lost Carlos. I was
Oh,
purposely frozen, just waiting for my
there he is back.
to hit again.
It was an awkward pause.
Yeah, Carlos, there was an awkward pause, dude. I've never had. I don't know how do you.
Wait a second. I hear a second person in Howard's location.
yeah.
There is a witness to in the
There's
room.
an audience member.
I'm like, did they do it on purpose? I'm like, I hope that the recording catch that, because that would be an awesome space. I'm like,
Sometimes we have to stop the speaker because they're simply not interested.
That's true. That's true. So I think maybe we need to start thinking about long meetings like episodes of a TV show.
Right.
And the TV show I'm gonna use as the perfect example is the show 24. Do you remember the show 24?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So a 4-hour meeting is like a season of 24. Right. Not everyone is in every episode of 24. So think about the cast of characters from episode to episode and call back to the prior episodes as you proceed through the show. Right. Instead of thinking about I'm making a movie, how about I'm making a TV show with connecting episodes?
Right.
So yeah, I need, you know, these are the people that are important for each piece of the agenda. This is where we're at with that agenda. It does mean we have to be on time.
Right.
No one's been on time in any meeting I've been in the last 12 months.
No.
Right. And I think time management, you know, needs to be kind of key. And frankly, we need to figure out, you know, how to incorporate that into our PowerPoint decks.
Mm-hmm.
Right. How do we incorporate a clock so I know what the pacing is supposed to be and where I'm supposed to be? If I'm supposed to be at this slide at minute 5, because I've got 10 minutes total to present, then I need to add a clock and a timer and know that I'm supposed to be there by minute 5.
Yeah.
And if I'm not, I need to make it up. Right. I can't just push on. I can't tell you the number of times that's happened where, okay, you have 7 minutes for your section and 14 minutes later, they're still talking. Okay, well, you just ate up the other person's section. Like,
That's effective for communication, less effective for problem solving. Imagine telling a team, you have 12 minutes to solve this problem. And once that expires, we're moving on to another problem.
yeah, but then you don't try to stack those.
No.
Right? You just go, we're here in this room to solve one problem, but you still have a clock. We still only have 30 minutes.
Right.
There's always still a clock. I don't know that I would try to problem solve for 7 minutes.
That's right. Invent something new, and here's your 30-minute timeline.
Right.
Whatever you have at the end of 30 minutes, that's what we're doing.
Although the sense of urgency does in fact help, right? I need an answer to this question. We're going to brainstorm for 7 minutes.
Right.
And then after 7 minutes, we're going to take what we've brainstormed and start stack ranking them, and we're going to spend 10 minutes, you know, talking about what we just brainstormed.
so at the end of the day, the camera is good, but sometimes should we not have the camera? Do we agree? Or do we agree that just get out of the meeting if you don't have to be there so you can be more engaged?
I mean, I still think it's both. I think that there are often times where you don't have the ability to just leave the meeting, right? And I still think the rule holds true, right? At a certain size, turn the camera off. I would also say, right, at a certain size, think about, does it need to be that size?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And whatever size works for you, say 6, right? Let's stretch it a little bit. Let's say 6, just as a stake in the ground. If you have a meeting that's 6 and under, okay, proceed, and then pay attention to the engagement of the people that have that everybody has their camera turned on, and then you should probably know, I can see 6 cameras. I should probably know I'm not engaging these 6 people. Did I invite the right 6 people? Should they have all been there? Should I send this as an email? And if it's more than 6, then really think about, should this be an email? Do I really need 6 people for 30 minutes or an hour? Right? Is this interactive enough? How many people have turned their camera on to ask a question? Or did they just listen the whole time? If they just listened, I got to tell you, record the presentation, email it out. You're not helping anybody.
Hoping people actually watch it. What's the percentage of time I've watched a pre-recorded meeting? Exactly 0%.
So,
Yeah, but I'm not. That doesn't mean I would have been engaged if they had presented it to me.
Exactly.
I would have been forced to be there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that we're solving anything. I don't know that we're hurting anything by doing that, right? The difference is just, well, I'm technically connected to it, and it may be on mute.
Right. Exactly.
So here's something that I did for my team, and we're leveraging it. We actually have an AI, machine learning, whatever you want to call it, automatically suck every meeting. It indexes the video, it transcribes the video, so you can actually search through all the meetings. You don't have to watch the whole thing. You just look for what you need. And when you find that word, you read the blurb of where the conversation is, and you can hit play, and it plays the video in that spot.
That's helpful if you want to hear every meeting that's ever mentioned your name.
Well, you're going to find Carlos in every meeting, but if you're talking about, let's say, the sizing guidelines for something, or you're looking for how we solve this problem or something like that, it automatically bring you to that point. Because we had some of that, like I can pre-record it. Some of them were in other meetings. It's like, hey, if you can make it, don't rush it. Here's going to be, so the whole thing is available for them online.
I'd come to meetings with a set of keywords. So I know to insert keywords. I know to return to it if I have to.
That's funny.
Lollapalooza. All right, now that I've said it,
safe word
now I
is
know it
pineapple. Safe word is pineapple. That'd be, you can assign everyone in the room a keyword. If you want to remember something later, you just say your keyword.
That's right.
Ooh, that was cool. Pineapple. Pineapple. Pineapple.
I like this.
That would be funny. I'm gonna add this one in there so we can look for pineapple, and it will appear. Pineapple, pineapple, pineapple.
Why did pineapple appear seven times? Okay, now officially, I think if you did a word cloud of this, pineapple would be the largest word.
Right. All right, Carlos, it's been 45 minutes of meeting etiquette.
And
in between, we have it. So we got hung up, but
and a special guest. You better put him on the credits this time.
Yeah, we had to put him on the credits. But don't stop there. Make sure that you watch this video, you subscribe, you share it, you comment below, and we'll see you on our next episode.